Hello and welcome to Coyote Corner. I'm Jay Elsen. We've got a busy show for you today. We're going to talk a little basketball coming up, but first, I want to wrap up our coverage of the 2013 football season. And for more on that, we bring in the head coach of the Coyotes, Joe Glenn. And Joe, the season came to an end on November 23rd with a loss at North Dakota State. 42-0 was the score. That didn't really seem like a fitting end to a year in which your program did make so much progress.
It was disappointing, there's no doubt, but we ran into a hurricane. There's no doubt about it. That's a wonderful football team. Could have been worse, possibly, if they wouldn't have called the dogs off. They're just that good. And I don't think we hit on all 8, but there's always a reason. They were just too much.
Does it give you a measure of kind of where you need to get to be what they've become?
I think what you need to do is you need to measure throughout the season. Certainly they're the measuring stick for our division in the FCS. So, yeah, everybody aspires to be where they're at. I've coached teams where they're at. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. So, but everybody's working in that same direction.
Let's talk a little bit about that direction. Looking back on it now, how would you assess overall the 2013 season for your team?
Well, I think you got to go back 2 years. And knowing that the University of South Dakota decided to go up a division and get into the Missouri Valley Football Conference and get to Division I FCS. We jumped in both feet and won one game, and very disappointed. We were in a lot of games, but just couldn't get over the hump. Now, fast forward one season, we won 4 games. We're in a lot more games than that, with some better football teams than we were even the year before. And so I think you can see the progress, but at the same time, now we got to close on the upper half of the league. That's the next step for us, and you just got to keep recruiting, keep working, be stable, be consistent, keep your staff, keep working hard in that direction. We'll get there.
One of the toughest parts for any head coach is saying goodbye to your seniors. You had 14 of them this year. What are your thoughts on the class of 2013?
Well, there are guys that, when I got here, that laid it down for the program, and they've never said no. It's been a great march for them because they laid it on the line. They did everything they could possibly do to be the very best team they could be this year, and I'm real proud of them. They needed some more help. You know, that's not a very big class, but there was some turnover, some change when I got here and our staff took over. That was a process, and we reduced and then started building, and we're still building, but we're making progress, and I think anybody that played us this year would know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the biggest name in that group, of course, is Tyler Starr, and all he did this year is lead the Missouri Valley Football Conference in tackles for loss, sacks, and forced fumbles. He's already been named the league's Defensive Player of the Year and a finalist for the Buck Buchanan Award, which goes to the top defensive player in the FCS. Talk about what number 11 has meant to this program. What do you think the future might hold for him?
Well, why don't you talk to Montana's quarterback and ask him what he thinks about him. You know, what he doesn't always come out in statistics. The pass rush that he brings, the energy, the effort, the hard work is Tyler Starr. Every part of drill period, to start practice, group work, teamwork, he never lets up. And then in the game, he gives it his all every snap. And when I don't think hurries was a statistic that we had in our program, but against the teams like Youngstown State or the teams that were at the higher end of our league, for the most part, the quarterback knew Tyler was coming, breathing down his neck all the time, and was forced to step up. And if we had any push up the middle, we were able to get more interceptions because of Tyler's effort. And so there's a lot of things he did aside from sacks and tackles for loss and those type of things that he just he created havoc for our opponents.
Obviously, replacing him now is a big part of your job going forward. It's not an easy thing to do, but overall, big picture, what do you see as the program's biggest needs going forward into next year?
Well, we lose our secondary. That is where we're going to have to rebuild. And we had 4 seniors playing in our secondary, and we've got to go. And we've got some guys in the program that have redshirted and played on the scout team this year that I watched every day. I know they're going to be good football players, but they won't have the experience as you would have if you were playing. We're probably trying to look for some junior college talent that we feel can come in and help us right away. We're going to look back at some players we've had that can possibly move into a situation there and help us in the secondary. So, and then we'll have to scheme around the athletes that we got. We've got some really good athletes. It's just getting the round pegs in the round hole.
All right, well, Coach Glenn and the Coyotes certainly gave us plenty to talk about here in 2013. And when we come back, we'll review some of the season's most significant storylines. That's next on Coyote Quarter. And welcome back to Coyote Quarter. Now that the 2013 season is in the books for the Coyote football team, it's time to look back at some of the more prominent storylines from this season. And for more on that, we bring in Midco SN analyst Andre Fields. And Andre, I think you start with the word progress. That is a key for this program right now. The Coyotes finished the season with a 4-8 overall record. They're 3-5 in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. And while that record certainly isn't where they'd like it to be just yet, it's pretty clear this program is headed in the right direction.
Oh, absolutely, Jay. I mean, you had 3 of those losses that could have easily been wins, and then we're looking at a different record. They lose by 7 points or less. They lose on the last drive or the last minute of the game. That definitely shows progress from where they were last year.
And that in and of itself is just a sign of the progression that it takes to build a winning program. You got to learn to finish those games, and that's something they just haven't been able to do consistently to this point.
Yeah, and we'll probably hit on it a little bit later, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that they were also pretty young in some spots.
A couple of pieces to highlight there as well is the fact that they got a couple of monkeys off their back. They got a conference win, not just one, they got 3, and then they also got a road win, ended that long road losing streak. So a couple of things going forward that gives them a little extra momentum as well.
Yeah, and now you don't have to worry about those things. So all you can do now is worry about what is that next step. What specifically do we have to do to get this program to the playoff level?
All right. Well, one of the big stories of the year from a position standpoint certainly surrounded the quarterback. After a 1-3 start, Kevin Earl took over for Josh Vandermont, and that proved to be a very large spark for this offense.
Yeah, it was, because what happened then is you took your best player who you had at quarterback athletically, and you moved him into a spot where you could get him the football in different ways, and then you took your best quarterback and put him out there, and we saw what difference that made for the offense. We saw what difference it made for the team in general. And then looking forward, we know that there's a lot more that we can get out of Kevin Earl, because he really just scratched the surface.
And it really speaks to the character of each of those individuals, Kevin Earl and Josh Vandermont. Josh Vandermont, a lot of guys would have sulked after what happened. He comes in and says, I want to help this team win. He embraces the move to wide receiver. And you really saw the chemistry start to develop between the two of those guys.
And I think because of him doing that, it built some camaraderie and some buy-in from the whole football team. And once you get that, then you can move forward and we see what happens.
Exciting thing for the Coyotes going forward, the fact that both of those guys, of course, coming back next year. Well, USD certainly was hoping for a big year out of Tyler Starr, and they got it. Starr, the Missouri Valley Defensive Player of the Year, after leading the league in tackles for loss, sacks, and forced fumbles. He ends his career tied with A.J. Schabel for the career sacks record at USD with 27. Certainly one of the best ever to put on a Coyote uniform.
Yeah, and I know that's probably going to eat at him that he has to end his career tied. But just think about this. You're the man on defense. Everyone is geared up to stop you, and you still have that type of season. That just shows you the type of impact and the type of player that young man is.
Certainly some potential for him to play on Sundays as well, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think he'll definitely get that shot. He has the size, he has the ability, and he's shown that he can be consistent, which is one of the things they definitely like to see.
All right, well, finally, while Starr is on his way out, there is a good crop of young talent coming back. Defensively, you look at guys like Kean Loggy and Drew Iddings. Offensively, Kevin Earl, we mentioned him, Trevor Bama, Riley Donovan, just to name a few. That's a pretty good list of core guys coming back to help lead this team.
And they're all pretty young, but look at the experience that they gained this year. You take that experience, that youth, and some of the things that they've learned, add that into the mix with the new crop of recruits, and they're going to be a lot of expectations next year for the Coyotes.
Yeah, put it all together, the record and all the rest of it. Lots of reason to be excited about this team going forward. All right, well, that's a wrap on our coverage of the 2013 football season, which means it's time to start our transition to hoops. We're going to sit down with women's coach Amy Williams right after this. Welcome back to Coyote Quarter. Switch gears to basketball now, and joining us is head coach of the women's basketball team, Amy Williams. And Amy, in your second year now at the helm of this Coyote program, and fresh off a trip to the Summit League Championship game and the semifinals of the WBI, the expectations as a result for your program have certainly gone up. How different is life for you now compared to what it was at this point last year?
Well, I think it's different in a lot of senses, and you know, I feel more comfortable having been through it one year and just starting to kind of get a little more settled with what to expect, but different in the sense that, you know, now we're dealing with 10 freshmen and sophomores on a roster, as opposed to, you know, 1 year ago we had only 10 able bodies, but 4 of those were seniors who were pretty veteran players, had played a lot of minutes in Coyote uniforms, so certainly you know, just a different look and different group. So you know, everything's just a little bit still a whirlwind.
Well, you mentioned the able bodies. What's it like to have mostly healthy players at this point?
Yeah, it feels good in practice to be able to, you know, get some different looks and give our kids some different opportunities, and you know, there's still always those few injuries here or there kind of nagging, but you know, but to have a little bit more options is a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. Well, as far as the team is concerned, you lost some key pieces from that championship game team that you had last year, but you also, of course, brought a lot of talent back. How do you feel about the group of returners that you do have?
Well, I mean, I feel great about that group of returners. I think they played a big piece, and they were able to get some great experience 1 year ago in our postseason. So I think that they're going to be able to help lead some of our young kids and show them, you know, the way and keep them together, especially through, you know, a pretty rough start here with some, you know, 6 of our first 7 games away from the dome and on the road, and I think that a lot of young teams can really crumble through that, but those returning players are working hard to keep everything together and being great leaders for us.
The headliner of that group of returners, certainly Nicole Seekamp. She was the MVP of the Summit League tournament for you last year, had a great run for you in the WBI, and with that for her comes a lot of individual expectations. How has she handled that? What do you need from her this year?
Well, I mean, she really is just kind of the big piece for our team. She calms our team. She gives us kind of a presence on the floor that just everybody looks to her, and you know, if she handles things well, then our team kind of settles down, and certainly she's been really good at that so far this year, and you know, she's capable scorer, but you know, she affected our game the other day in so many ways with 6 assists, 1 turnover, just controlling tempo, understanding situations, and she's a great leader for our group.
Let's talk about a couple of the fresh faces then. Junior college transfer Rachel Contreras, true freshman Bridget Arns, figured to make some significant contributions for you this year.
Yeah, I think that we've seen it, you know, those new kids, there's a little inconsistency that we're still trying to kind of work out, but Rachel is a very explosive scorer. She can score in a lot of different ways, has very, you know, deep range on her shot, and can get to the basket, which makes her difficult to defend a lot of times. And Bridget Arns is just really physical, just tough, just a great rebounder, not afraid to do the dirty work, just get in and do all the little things, and it's going to be a good player for us this year and in our future.
Off to a 3-5 start, includes a couple of home wins over a couple of Mountain West opponents in Boise State and Wyoming this past weekend. How do you feel about where your team is at as of right now?
Well, I think that we had, like I said, a little bit of a rocky start. You know, we feel like we could easily be sitting, you know, 6-2 or so right now. We lost a few close games that we feel like we really shouldn't have let slip through the cracks on us, but it's kind of, I think, a product of our team just really trying to learn each other and being away from home so long, and so certainly it's going to be a tough test to start the year. We knew it was going to be, and we didn't handle it as well as we'd like, but I think if we can learn from that, it will really help us as we move forward and head into Summit League play.
Now, Utah State coming up for you on Thursday. Then on Saturday, you travel to Rapid City to take on South Dakota Mines, and that one's got a fun angle in and of itself because it's your first chance to go up against your former assistant Ryan Larson. Looking forward to that one?
Well, I'm looking forward to it in some senses, but you know, I think it'll be a great trip out to Rapid and a great opportunity for a lot of the USD alum on that side of the state to kind of get to see, you know, both our women's and men's team in action, and you know, excited to take our team out to that side of the state. A lot of kids have never seen, you know, the Black Hills or Mount Rushmore, so we're going to try to get to see that for them. But I'm quite sure Ryan is going to have a pretty tremendous game plan prepared. I think
Probably.
he's fairly familiar with our roster, so I think he'll have us scouted pretty well, and we'll have a great game plan. So a little nervous about that.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Amy. Good luck to you this week, and look forward to talking to you throughout the season.
Thanks, Jay.
All right. That is Amy Williams, head women's coach, and up next, the men's coach. Will join us, interim head coach Joey James. Hey, welcome back to Coyote Quarter. Joining us now, head coach of the men's basketball team, the interim head coach, Joey James. And Joey, for you, it's kind of a new beginning because you took over this program this fall after the retirement of Dave Boots. And just want to ask, how are you adjusting to your new role?
Oh, I think it's been great. You know, it's I don't get a whole heck of a lot of sleep still. But I tell you, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great group to work with. Really enjoy being around these guys. They're working really hard still. They're competitive in the games, in most games that we played in. But shoot, I've had a blast with it. It's been a ton of fun for me, and I'm just excited about continuing to get rolling with the rest of the season.
Other than personnel, how is the team different, if at all, with you running the show?
Oh, I don't think it's a ton different. I think, you know, more than anything, we've got a lot of energy in the building. I'm a younger guy than what Coach Boots was, but our staff's done a great job, and I think more than anything, it's been a lot of energy and enthusiasm and really getting after these guys.
Well, how has having guys like Trevor Bruce, Brandon Voss, guys with a lot of experience, good leaders, how has that helped in the transition from Boots to James?
They've been great. You know, they're both of our captains. They've had great leadership so far. I'm still demanding more out of those guys, trying to get a little bit more out of Trey Norris too. I think there's more that he can give to us right now as a leader, but they've done a fantastic job in the locker room. I think even in practice, you know, when things start getting a little dicey, they get those guys going a little bit more. So they've done well.
What's the biggest challenge to this point that you've encountered in your new role?
I don't like to lose. I hate losing. So I think just being on the road, you know, getting on the road those first 4 games, getting those out of the way, and finally being home and being around our fans. But I tell you, I'm not a fan of losing. Our guys know that stuff, and I think they really want to win. We just gotta keep instilling some of the philosophy that we're doing right now to make sure that we go down the right track.
Now, in addition to Bruce, Voss, you've got a few others that gained a lot of valuable experience last year as freshmen. How much improvement have you seen in guys like Casper Bauer, Flack, Eric Robertson from year 1 to year 2 in the program?
Yeah, well, Casey has done a really nice job in the spring and summer and fall of working on taking guys off the bounce. You know, and he's not done it a ton, but obviously we know he can shoot the ball really well. He hasn't up to this point, except the last 2 games. First 3 has been a struggle for him, but he's improved dramatically with some areas. Plus, his defense has gotten a little bit better. Tyler Flack is one of those kids who I think can be one of the best players that ever stepped foot in this program. He just needs to learn to figure it out. He's still young. He's only a sophomore, but he's gotten stronger. He's gotten a little bit more athletic, if you can believe that or not. Just understanding the game more. He's just got to continue to improve on that.
You mentioned a little bit of Trey Norris. He's one guy that had to sit last year due to a transfer. Adam Thosby had to sit because of transfer. Tyler Larson was injured. What do you see those guys bringing to the table now that they can come out and compete for you?
Well, those guys have been in college programs before. You know, all 3 of them have, and 2 of them has been in 4-year programs. Tyler Larson, unfortunately, had that ACL injury last year. He's just now starting to come along. He's still dragging his knee a little bit, is what I say. He's probably about 80-85%. But if you start watching the game flow, he's one of our 3 guards that have really good feel of those 3 kids. He has really good feel for the game. He's got to shoot it better for us, but defensively and rebounding, he's pretty good. Trey Norris is a very quick point guard that gets the ball. He can put us in an offense. He's very unselfish. I think he's had 14 assists the last 2 games with no turnovers, which is impressive. He just needs to understand how to lead our basketball team more. He's not a very vocal guy. He's pretty quiet. So we're trying to get him to be a little bit more vocal in practice and in games, and he's starting to understand kind of what you know, myself and our staff want out of him. Adam Thosby transferred out of Utah State. The kid can get it going. I mean, we've all seen it in practice. He just needs to start translating that into game situations now. He's not shooting it great. but I think he'll come along pretty well for us. 6'5" guard that can take you off the bounce, can get to the basket. But he's those three kids have got to be able to play better for us consistently for us to have a good year.
Another big challenge for you coming up Saturday night. You go to Rapid City, take on Wyoming for a second time this year. Cowboys won the first one 70-53 back in Laramie on November 22nd. What do you have to do differently against that team to come out and get a win?
Well, I thought we did a poor job defensively in that game. I think they shot 50%. Right now we're holding teams at 39% field goal shooting, which is very good. It's been an improvement from the past years. But we got to be able to defend those guys. They ISO'd us too much one-on-one, and we did a poor job. But shoot, we got to make shots. With a nice home crowd out in Rapid City and our fans and alumni out there supporting us, I think it'll benefit our guys in getting Wyoming away from their home court. With that altitude out there, I think it'll be great for us. But we're definitely looking forward to the challenge.
All right, good luck to you this weekend. Thanks for joining us, Joey.
Thank
All
you.
right, stay tuned. When we come back, wrap things up with a look at what's ahead this week for the Coyotes. And welcome back. Well, the Coyote men and women each have 2 games remaining on the schedule for this week. The men will be at Air Force on Thursday night, while the women play host to Utah State. Remember, Amy Williams' team split a pair of games with the Aggies last season. From there, both USD teams will head west to Rapid City for a non-conference doubleheader. The women take on former assistant Ryan Larson and South Dakota Mines at 6 o'clock Central Time on Saturday, followed by the men against Wyoming at 8:15. Both of those games will air live right here on Midco SN. It's the first of 8 regular season games to be broadcast on this network. And of course, you'll also be able to see quarterfinal and semifinal games at the Summit League Tournament, which is slated for March 8th through the 11th at the Sioux Falls Arena. All right, that's our time. We'll be back here next Tuesday night to recap the week that was in Coyote basketball.